All right, our final panel of the evening, how to survive and thrive. Let's meet our panelists. Mike DiLaura from the House of Dank. Mike is up. Right here, Mike. Right here. I got you here. Mike DiLaura is a financial services attorney for more than 20 years, is the chief corporate officer at House of Dank, a rapidly growing cannabis company in Michigan with ambitious plans, with 12 retail stores, more than 700 employees, and the coolest installation in Royal Oak at the Arts Beats and Eats. What an amazing thing that they put together. A keen interest on building a community in this industry with leaders in Michigan where he believes it offers the best cannabis culture, brands, and operators anywhere in America. Let's meet Mike. Aric Klar is the CEO of Quality Roots. Let's welcome Aric. Founded in 2020, Quality Roots is an 8-store, soon to be 10 by the end of the year, with one of those stores being in the state of New Jersey. Aric and his family have a background in retail with Toyology, a background in real estate, retail scalability, supply chain management, and commercial development have been key to Quality Roots' growth and push to become a leading data-driven cannabis retailer. Let's meet Aric. Our final panelist is Ankur Rungta, who's the co-founder and CEO of C3 Industries, based here in Ann Arbor. Under his leadership, the company has raised more than $100 million of capital and currently employs more than 900 people. Ankur and his team have overseen the development of 6 award-winning cannabis production facilities, as well as 30 retail stores in Michigan, Massachusetts, Missouri, New Jersey, Illinois, and Connecticut. Let's meet Ankur. And I got a call about 2 hours ago. Charlie Langton has laryngitis, and he's sick, and he's not doing well, so you're stuck with me. Let's have some fun. Listen, by the way, 8 o'clock, 8:01, we'll be here in no time. And if we go a little past 8, who's going to say shit anyways? So let's start with Aric. Aric, tell us what's new and exciting with Quality Roots.
What's new and exciting is just leveraging and scaling what we have. Accretion is real, scalability is real, margin compression is real. So what's exciting is finally seeing stability even at a level and price compression point that we're at here in Michigan. We talked about this the other day, Michigan being a knife fight and all these other places being pillow fights, and I'm sure Ankur's part of a few of those. We're excited to be part of our first one. But I think that's what's exciting is we know that we can succeed in Michigan, and I think that a lot of people in this room can succeed elsewhere. So I think that's what's exciting.
Aric, how have you taken your background in Toyology, and how has that been helpful to you to transition into the retail cannabis market?
So I grew up in the pharmacy business and then got into the toy business. So I would say that weed is the perfect balance of where compliance meets trend. For the toy business, we thrived off of always having the latest things, making sure the children in the community were talking about us being the people that had it, and being community-driven retailers. At the end of the day, with the toy business, any mom could go sit in line to pick up their kids from school and buy anything from Amazon, right, with their fingers. So we had to take a much different approach, right? Little things like free gift wrapping in that business go a long way. And in this business, things like service and being efficient and customers seeing that is equally as important.
Thank you. Mike, House of Dank has explosive growth, a legacy player here in the state of Michigan. What are you most excited about over the next 12 to 24 months?
Boy, there's so much to be excited about in this marketplace, right? I mean, we were here a year ago, and what were we talking about, all right? I was on this very stage, different venue, and we were talking about the end of the MSOs in Michigan. Where's Curaleaf, everybody? That's one down. That's a headstone, people. All right? You come to Michigan, you leave in a box. All right? And that's how it's going to be, and that's how we're going to keep it, okay? Because this is our market. All right? It's nobody else's market, and I'm proud to be in it. And you should be too. Now maybe our meteoric top-line growth has slowed a little bit, but you ain't seen nothing yet, okay? And it's this group, it's this room that's going to dominate this market, that's going to set the tone for the market. So you want to be excited. What's not to be excited about? Come on, guys. We're down, 50% in retail pricing in the last 18 months, yet we're still rocketing at a rate of a 20% year-over-year growth in the market. Holy fucking shit!
Yeah, but Mike,
the market's flying.
But
all right?
Mike,
we're so doomsday here, and it's bullshit. All right, it's bullshit. All right, yes.
But hold on, Mike. Mike, the profit margin in this industry possibly started at 100% or higher, and then it came down to 50. And I know people today that are somehow operating at 5%. How is that sustainable?
It's not sustainable. Of course it's not. It's
How do we make more money?
What? There are a number of different ways to make more money in this industry, but it takes all of us to decide to help it change this industry, because it's not the CRA. All right? Like a lot of people out here, they like to ask the CRA for help. CRA is not your friend. They're not your ally, and they're not coming to save you, most importantly, because we ain't victims. All right? There's stuff that we need to do in this room to clean up our market. All right? And it's not as hard as you all think it is. It really isn't, okay? By applying basic principles we see in non-cannabis retail, we can still deliver the best fucking products in the country at the best fucking prices right here in Michigan and do it at a margin that we can make money, all right? There's a lot of different things we can get into, and we will as we talk about it. But number one is to stop thinking we're losing, because we ain't losing, all right? And we ain't going down without a fight. I know you all know that about HOD.
You'll be hard-pressed to find a more optimistic or enthusiastic advocate for this state than Mike DiLaura, that's for sure. Ankur, Mike for president. Ankur and I were together about a month ago at a conference in Chicago, and it was amazing to me to see people from nationally recognized venture capital just foaming at the mouth to throw money at you. And I've seen it in a couple.
I wasn't in that room.
I've seen it in a couple of industries, but you've built such a reputation and sophistication with your operation, raising money. I mean, more than $100 million. You guys really haven't figured out that model. And so a lot of guys in this room are bootstrapped, right? They kind of put it all together one at a time, and I think the term is they parlay it from one to the next, right? That's how they say it. But how have you guys found success raising capital?
I mean, it's very challenging right now, honestly. There isn't a lot of capital out there. So a lot of that $100 million was raised years ago. But the question is, what do you do with the capital, right? Like, that's the critical piece. Like, raising it is only the first step, right? How do you deploy it in a way that makes sense? How do you build profitable businesses that are strong fundamentally? So even in Michigan, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with what Mike's saying. I mean, we are the most successful market in many ways in the country. We have the highest per capita spend. We have a massive marketplace, the most innovative products, the best prices for consumers, which is also very important. So, like, it is the best market, and in my view, the cutting edge of operators are here in Michigan, whether on the production side or on the retail side. We're all forced to make our businesses better because of how competitive it is, and so it can be challenging. There are going to definitely be winners and losers, but it's also the most exciting market, and if you can be successful here, then that bodes well for you in other markets. And we've taken a lot of what we've learned from Michigan, taken it into other states now. And frankly, again, if you can compete here and you can compete in the room with these types of people that are this good at what they do, then you're gonna have success in other places too. So, unfortunately, the raising of the capital, it's very challenging right now. It may get a little better depending on what happens in the coming months with rescheduling and some other things. But I, for one, am not counting on much movement at the federal level. So I think we just got to all buckle down. Mike alluded to it, the mature recreational markets are slowing down in terms of their growth. Even the Michigan rocket ship is not quite we're not seeing the same year-over-year growth that we've seen in the past. So if the market's maturing, there's tons of competition, what are we all going to do? We got to make our businesses actually fundamentally strong. So, we all spend a lot of time growing, and that's great, but then you got to step back and say, is my business actually functioning the way it should? Is it optimized? Am I doing the things that traditional retailers do? Bringing that best-in-class practices into this industry. That's the hard work. That's the work that's actually happening now. That's really never happened in the past. So I find it very exciting. We're finally, even in our business, like, we're actually really looking at what are we doing? Does it make sense? How do we improve it? And not just being focused on growth for once. So,
Aric, why does the customer have to be the number one beneficiary of this industry?
That's a great question. I think they have to be the number one beneficiary because of what their expectations are and what our expectations are. I think that's the first first thought of our mind. Anytime we open our store every day, the customer has to be the beneficiary of quality products and not getting trash all day long. Our name screams very loud. Quality roots. Our customers need to be the beneficiary of what our preferred vendors are doing on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. I see a ton of my vendors in here today. My marketing team's here. I think my vendors supported us with $100,000 in cash for the next 2 months of our initiatives. Our customers need to be the beneficiary of that. So of trend management, of new SKUs, of price points, they need to remain the beneficiary. And if they're top of mind all the time, which I know is the case for us, I know it's the case for House of Dank, and I know that's the case for C3 across the country, people who put that customer first and show them the benefits, they'll always win. We're all doing the same things. How can our loyalty programs be better, right? I get hit with the House of Dank apps all the time. We're all thinking about how can our customer survive in our life cycle more? How can we reward the people that are spending $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year at our store and give them stronger benefits? So, we want to be here for the long term, and we want people to consistently shop at our stores. And again, just to come full circle, it's only going to happen by them being the benefit and us seeing the reward.
Mike, does the customer need free weed?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Who doesn't love free weed? Look, if you're not here to serve your customer, why are you here? All right, I can't think of any business that is B2C where you're not here to serve the customer. Like, that's not your number one priority. If you don't want to smoke it, don't sell it. If you can't stand behind it, don't put it in the market. The question is almost silly to me when we talk about customer first. The customer is our God for all of us. We're nothing without the customer. That's crazy talk to me. All right? It may be a commodity, but it's not a requirement. We're not a bunch of utility companies up here just ripping rent off the common folk. That's not this business. If we don't put out good product, if we don't respect our customers, they're not going to respect you. So of course the customer is number one. That's our whole value proposition. I know it's Aric's, and I know Ankur feels the same way, that if customer service isn't what you're talking about all the time, if having the best products and standing behind them isn't what you're about, then you're the problem.
Yeah, I would just say it another way, there's a race to the bottom that's happening that doesn't need to happen. And actually many consumers don't necessarily want the cheapest thing, but it's being shoved in their face constantly. And so even for us, we're like, how do we pull out of that death cycle of just going to the lowest common denominator and free weed and all that stuff? You have to give the customer value, but you also have to guide them a little bit, meaning there's so much noise in cannabis. I believe we have 900 producers in Michigan, so they don't fucking know the brands. They don't know exactly what's what. And the only thing they can really look at that's objective is the THC percentage. And so that's what everyone's solving for, but that doesn't really tell you much about the quality of something. And so, like Mike said, it's on us to educate the consumer. It's on us to get them to understand, hey, this is why you should spend a little bit more for this, because it's going to be much more enjoyable than the trash, right? And so, but if trash is in their face all day and trash is all they're being marketed and trash is all they're hearing about, then they're going to buy trash, right? So it's very simple. So there's a lot of education that's needed. I don't actually view it as all that surprising or unusual. We're just going through a certain part of the cycle right now where everything's kind of gotten cheap. It's oversupplied. People are just pulling out the first trick in the bag, which is discounting, right? Because that's the easiest thing you can do is try to discount your way out of a bad business situation. So then what needs to happen is the harder work, right? How do you get the customer experience right? How do you sell people the right things? How do you upsell them? How do you make the experience better? These are all the harder things to do that take much more time and energy to infuse into your business. And frankly, in Michigan, the groups that do it well are going to succeed, and the ones that don't are going to not last. So, as it frankly should be. If you're a capitalist and you want an open market, well, come to Michigan. You got it here,
Yeah.
So that's my view on it.
Aric, you had a thought?
All well said.
Yeah, no, I'm curious to know, how do you optimize the customer experience? So somebody comes in for maybe a $50 spend, what are some of your tactics or strategies to help upsell them so that you can maximize every dollar that they come in to spend in that store? What's that process look like for you?
For Quality Roots, it's hitting as many touch points as possible. So for us, there's a 4-step process to shopping at Quality Roots. And each step of the way, when you're with a different, one of our quality care specialists, that person knows about your previous experiences, what you've been buying, what brands you like, and because of our attention to detail and how we train them on everything new that's coming to our store, we're able to educate them on everything new that's similar to those brands. Or when a brand comes out with something new, we can help them be guided towards buying that brand's new item. Shout out to Mid and Extra X. I'm trying to figure out how I can grow my business with them. I can do that through their new influence.
You got paid to say that, I'm sure.
They support. But that's what it is, right? Like, how can we do more business together? You have brand validity. Fly with that brand validity. Protect your pricing. Put more SKUs in the market, and we'll do a bigger business together. I can't handle people coming to my office every day saying, "Hey, we can sell you a cart for $3.20." I don't want to make $1.80 on each cart. I know some people can do that, and that's their business, and great for them. That's not our business. So I think that's a big focus today.
Mike?
I think it's a huge challenge, for all retailers to maximize that customer experience. And to Ankur's point, we're learning, and this is the hard part. I mean, for a store like HOD, our overnight success has been 10 years in the making, right? So, 10 years ago, it was very much, if you build it, they will come. It was Field of Dreams time in the cannabis industry. And so we've had to learn some of these lessons a little bit later in the business cycle than a traditional entrepreneur or retailer. But we certainly try to do a lot of the similar things that Aric is talking about. It really centers on education of your staff and trying to move away from the mentality of selling the deal, and listening more and establishing relationships with your customers to try to find a product that they want. And also, I think that you can increase margin dollars without necessarily upselling with a better educated workforce. For those of you in the retail space or just hang out at dispos like I do, look, if you go in and try to buy some gummies, particularly if you're going to get them on like a bundle deal at most stores, in general, the customer is not that picky about which brand you're putting in for, if they're $2 a piece kind of thing. But your prices might be a little different on that on the back end. If you can educate your bud tenders to sell items that in the customer's mind are virtually the same and that are the same price, but result in a different margin dollar to you, that is something that the customer largely at that price point isn't paying attention and doesn't care what gummies they're getting at that price point. You're able to then expand margin dollars a little bit without upselling. Because everybody is afraid a little bit of upselling, and I know the bud tenders are, and certainly are, is that, if somebody comes in and they want something at a certain price tier, they feel a certain way about trying to drive them to spend more money. Whereas this is something that I think that we can do, always listening to the customer and fulfilling their order. But if they're giving you a dealer's choice, I think that there are choices a bud tender can make to maximize those margin dollars without driving up ticket prices. So there's a lot of things on the edges that you can do to maximize your profits.
Yeah, and I would just add, so I totally agree. The bud tenders are the most critical point of contact with the customer. So if your team is not well trained or they're not well informed on the different options, a lot of people aren't coming into stores. A lot of us, we struggle with how do we even have a menu? How do we present it to people? We have 500 SKUs. How do they even know what we're offering in a category? A lot of that is the bud tender having to do that work. So they are critical, and we're very much still working on that piece. It is a work in progress. It's retail. It's high turnover. How do you handle training, L&D? These are really hard things to do in cannabis. For us, in 6 states, we have to do it. So it's brutal. Every state has to be totally, kind of a individualized program. So it's a really hard thing to do. The other piece I would say, besides the human element, is e-com is becoming a bigger part of our business. Screens and technology are becoming a bigger part of how people shop. So if we have, for us, I think we're at 35, 40% e-com or something across the platform. I think it's a little lower in Michigan. Some other states are higher now. But how do you have the best e-com experience to serve those people, right? How do you make sure that if they order online and they come in, they don't want to wait? There's a reason they ordered online, right? They don't want to sit in line behind the guy that wants to look at 100 flower jars, right? They want to come in and out. So how do you service that on the, in the digital environment? Now people may not want to come up to the counter and talk to the bud tender for an hour. They may want to order in the lobby. So do you have the right kiosk? Is your menu presented the right way? Are you showing people the options of what they bought before so they don't have to scroll through 100 things? think about if you go to McDonald's, like what's the experience when you touch the screen, right? Like, so there's a lot for us to figure out, and I think like it also requires a big investment of time and money. So in a tough environment, when you're less profitable, cash is tight, how do you prioritize these things? How do you put the resources into them? So it's a real challenge for a lot of businesses, I think, that we're all gonna have to like navigate. I think you have to make the investment now before it gets too late. You know what I mean?
I think it's really interesting too. Everybody smokes weed, right? I mean, we can all acknowledge that. So I mean, when you got people 21 to 90 coming through your stores, to Ankur's point, you have to meet people where they are. And people want a different type of retail experience based on their age, their background, or otherwise. And we sell to such a large variety of people that you can't pigeonhole yourself as if you say you were an Hermes store or a dollar store because you're only trying to chase one type of customer. So you've got to master all the different ways that someone wants to buy, be it online or at a kiosk in your store, or maybe they want that experience of coming in and talking to one of your sales professionals and learning about new products or otherwise. You've got to meet them where they are, and there's just so many different ways that people want to interact with, this industry and our stores that it certainly is a challenge to try to excel at all of them.
Yeah, and I would just add too, like Michigan is a very unique retail environment, meaning there's a massive number of brands, so tons of SKUs. Lots of people offer deli, which deli is not even a thing in many states. It's not even allowed from a regulatory standpoint in many states. So Michigan, historically, it's like all of us, like, or maybe not all of them, maybe not Eric's stores, but like ours, like everything's behind the counter. You know what I mean? You walk up, all the jars are there, right? You fucking want to show everybody everything, like visually through visual merchandising. The world is changing. People don't care about if someone's buying a $50 ounce. Do they need to smell it first? Probably not, right? And so, like
in Michigan, they sure do.
Yeah, they may still need to, but like, yeah. So sorry, I'm talking. But like, yeah, I just think that getting a sense of like what's changing and understanding that we're more of a legacy market than most places, and we have a legacy approach. And frankly, in my business, we've had to realize, oh shit, just because we do this in Michigan doesn't mean we should do it in Connecticut. Because Michigan's a pretty different marketplace, right? It's a very unique marketplace. So unique challenges, unique ways that we operate. And I think we all need to kind of like, in Michigan, we need to kind of come out of that mentality a little bit, move our businesses ahead, embrace technology a little bit more. So there's just a mindset shift. And I think Michigan's just a great example of a place that's still working through that right now.
How do we protect profitability proactively? I know there's a lot of P's. How do we protect profitability proactively here?
Well, we talked about this in our call the other day. In every other industry I've been a part of, MAP pricing is a real thing. It takes an army to get behind, but in the toy business, when Lego put out a MAP policy, which stands for minimum advertised price, it put everybody on the same playing field. Immediately my sales for Lego at my small boutique toy store increased. Immediately my sales for Lego at my small online toy store increased. I could now compete with, industry leaders on price, and I could beat them on service, right? So where we live today, I think that's a great way for us to balance ourselves out, and it's very hard to do, right? But with a business like Quality Roots, we're focused on maintaining our price points, maintaining and building our margin, and we want to do that. We want to.
I'll clap to that. That's a good thing.
Business.
Protect profitability.
But I can only do that with vendors who do that for themselves. I cannot. It kills me to see somebody put so much effort, time, sweat, tears, missing time for their kids into a brand, and they meet with me month one. Wholesale price is $6, retail price is $12. Meet with me month two, it's at $4, retail's $8. They just keep punching themselves in the face. Like, when you're going to get behind your brand, protect yourself from the people who are killing your brand, and then give yourself leverage to the people like Quality Roots who are going to allow you to empower that brand. So I think that's the key to getting through all this. And again, we've shaved almost 30 brands from our shelves over the past 6 to 8 months, and we're bringing in a lot of new stuff. And the reason for that new stuff is we're working with those brands to protect the price points. I understand that we all operate different businesses. We can all have different products. There's 900 producers here in the state, but with the 100 or 150 that I work with, I hope they're protecting their asses as much as I'm protecting mine. By the way, Derek, what's the smoking fee in here?
What's that?
So what's the smoking fee in this room?
The smoking fee in this room.
I'm going to build on...
Can't we wait till 8:01? Shit. No. Okay, Mike, this leads us to the next question, which is highly contentious with a lot of folks. Let's just dive right into it. the four-letter word MSRP. Give us your thoughts on this. How could this work? How could this help move the industry forward here in the state of Michigan? You've got alcohol with minimum pricing. You've got guaranteed revenue for a lot of retailers out there. But here in the state of Michigan, it seems like it's just you said race to the bottom earlier. Tell us a little bit about, without using the word price, MSRP.
I think that Aric kind of already covered that. When we talk about MSRP, I think we're really focused more on minimum advertised pricing. What I don't want anybody to think is that, well, I won't speak for anybody else on this board, but I am not in favor of the state coming in any capacity and setting a floor on pricing. Not at the wholesale level, not at the retail level, period. All right, so I want to be very clear about that. Now, I think Aric did a great job to talk about this idea of brands, protecting the quality, protecting their investment with some minimum advertised pricing that we see in non-cannabis retail. And I want to build on that and talk about us as retailers. I recently was in a meeting with some senior leaders from another high-profile cannabis company, and they're in the room tonight, and we were talking about this very issue. And the retailers have to wean themselves off shitty white label brands, okay? Particularly on the non-flower side, okay? We need to have good brand partners, all right? We need to stop enticing people that come in and say, hey, I can get you a nickel off these gummies, but I'm not a real company. I've white labeled all of this. I got somebody on Fiverr to come up with a Mylar bag, and I'm just trying to catch a rip on a wholesale sale and get it to you, and then I'm done. I probably won't even send you a correct invoice, but I do want to get paid on delivery. All right? We need to support the people that are in the industry. All right? If you haven't invested, why are you on my shelf? And that's something that when we talk about the brands working to keep their quality high and giving them a reason to bring in the highest quality oil or biomass or otherwise to make their products, we as brands owe them the service to create deep relationships with our brand partners. Being on our shelves should matter. And they should not worry that because somebody's third cousin is a nickel cheaper on some 510s that they've been relegated to the bottom. That ain't right, Joe. And it's hurting us. If you're not in this industry, you need to get out.
Ankur?
Should I talk about other ways? No, look, I mean, I think that, so besides, I agree, I think some type of a program like this would be helpful, whether or not in an industry that's populated with so many players, that's pretty kind of unruly. Like, I'm a little cynical about how you put that together without government intervention, and I'm not a proponent of government intervention either, so I'm not sure how you get to that. But look, I think beyond that, like, there's also a lot of other things that we can be doing to increase the profitability of our businesses, right? Like, we have, as individual retailers, we don't have to race to the bottom. There are customers that are looking for other things. Actually, as a retailer, you should be able to take advantage of some of what's going on in the wholesale market to buy well and to be able to offer your customers value and still have a healthy gross margin in your business. So I think it's, how do you buy correctly so you can get the right gross margin profile? And then from an SG&A standpoint, how do you control the expenses of your business? A lot of us were so focused on growth. Mike said it, you'd open a door, it would immediately start crushing because it was the only thing available, and you'd staff it up, you'd overstaff it, you'd put 7 security guards outside, and now we're like, oh my God, this stuff, we got to figure out how to rationalize all these things, right? We have to, what's labor cost as a percentage of sales, right? Why did I have a $1,000 internet package at this store when it should be $200? We got to look at all this stuff, right? And all of us have all this, we've all grown so fast that we have all this noise in our business that we have to go in and clean out now, and it's not easy to do. It takes a lot of effort. It's a lot less sexy than opening your new store or going into your new state or raising $100 million or whatever it is, right? But that's the stuff that, so I actually think there's a lot of fat in a lot of these businesses that just needs to be, thought about, rationalized, cut out in some cases. And, some of us have stores that are open way too many hours. They're not even busy some of those hours. Should they be open that long? Looking at data, trying to figure out how do I make money? How do I focus in on the place where I'm making money and stop doing all the stuff that's not making money, right? And so easier said than done, but those are the things we all need to be looking at.
We got a couple more minutes left. I know I wanted to touch on the hemp topic, which you guys have different perspectives on. Love to hear it. Where do you think, how do we move forward?
Yeah, it's a very interesting world. Again, I also come from the direct consumer space, so for me, it's exciting, right? Because again, I can reach so many new customers. But at the same time, it's scary because it could negatively impact what we've built here, I think the state of Michigan right now does an okay job at protecting this, but we all know the horror stories that come out of some of these other states and what's going on. My biggest thing is making sure that these products, no matter what they are, in the right people's hands. That's the biggest thing for me. I know that a lot of people have hundreds of millions of dollars into this space, so they want to protect, their investment in this space as much as they can. When, for Quality Roots, we're trying to adapt and see where these horizons of this industry are going and try to place ourselves in them. If there's new opportunity to touch new people with our brand, that's every brand's focus. That's everybody's goal, right? In Michigan, we're limited to 10 million people, and online I can hit as many people as I want to. So it's a different perspective, but protecting the product integrity of the industry is first and foremost what we're worried about.
Mike, I know you have a different thought.
Yeah, obviously I think we see hemp a little bit differently. I think that one of the reasons it makes it difficult to kind of double down, because I agree with everything that you're talking about of expanding the brand, is I don't know if anybody's got the crystal ball of where this goes, right? I mean, this seems less certain than even cannabis was a few years ago as to how long are you going to be able to exploit this loophole, not just in Michigan, but nationwide. So I think that has certainly been something that as we evaluate that and, when we're sitting around, the boardroom table, that has certainly been something that we've been concerned with, that, we've got so much invested in this industry, to spin up and try to chase into an ancillary industry that is very similar to expand the brand. And if everything gets shut off too quickly, what are the opportunity costs? And not just in capital, but in bandwidth, right? I mean, even the largest of our companies in this industry in the state are ultimately only so large, and we only have so many people that can go ahead and do so many different projects. When we look at HOD, what's the best use of our senior people's time? Is it jumping into the hemp space, or is it doing some of the hard work that Ankur's talking about of digging into our own existing businesses and cleaning them up and checking out SG&A and trying to reduce expenses and expand margins and doing that hard, boring work that doesn't take place at ABE. It's fun to grow top line, all right? Like everybody, you're throwing parties, everybody's a good time. It's much harder to do that deeper, more boring work, and I think it's a matter of bandwidth as HOD looks at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, my view on hemp is like, I think a lot of us in this room in the Michigan market have been involved in cannabis before it was licensed. So whether that was in the caregiver market, the illicit market, I know I know a lot of people in here, my peers, my colleagues, competitors, they've been in that world. And so over time we were told, hey, we want to regulate psychoactive cannabinoids. We want to have regulated marketplaces. We want to no longer have an illicit market. We want to regulate these products, make them safe. We want people to get these licenses, invest all this time and money into like building these compliant businesses. And so a lot of us were like, all right, we're going to give up our hustle and give up the money we're making, and we're going to do this instead. And we're going to come into this space, and we're going to play in the regulated psychoactive cannabinoid supply chain, right? And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, wait a second, there's going to be this other way you can play it that's not regulated. And so I think, frankly, a lot of us would have just probably kept trapping, right? If that was the case, if we knew that that's where it was headed, right? So I just think that it's just so hypocritical to me, the whole situation. And, we're all trying to build these really strong, compliant businesses. We're trying to like do things the right way. We're not perfect, obviously, but, to think now that there's just this other like loophole way to play it that's way easier, cheaper, less regulated, whatever, like that just seems like insanity to me. So I think it's absolutely hurting the Michigan market. Yes, we are still seeing growth this year. I think that growth would have been significantly higher if we didn't have all these hemp products out there. So to me, it's pretty existential, and it's we need to point out the hypocrisy here, meaning like we all in our society, we don't sell psychoactive products in an unregulated manner. I don't care if it's alcohol, I don't care if it's prescription drugs, like we regulate this stuff, right? So cannabis is in that category. We've all made this bet, and we've gone down this road, and expectations have been set, and now it seems to be going in a different direction. So I'm very vocal and passionate about this. I have no problem with the hemp industry. I just have a problem that We created a regulated framework, and then now we're letting that happen. If that's where it had gone from the beginning, then maybe we'd be sitting here at the hemp power connections meeting or whatever, right? But so that's my view. I don't begrudge people that are in that space, but for all of us, we have to protect our interests. And to Aric's point about playing in that space, you're going to see more and more of us doing that, but as a hedge. Not necessarily because we want to or we want to dedicate time and allocate resources to that, but more because we're terrified. Like, what if this becomes like the main part of the industry and we're stuck in this little stub part of it, right? So like, there's a lot to figure out there. There's going to be a lot of action. 2025, the Farm Bill is going to be reauthorized, so we're going to see what happens there. And I'm doing a lot of work at the federal level. I'm trying to get some of our larger companies in Michigan to participate in some of that work. So some of you guys have heard from me already on that. So we got to kind of contribute as Michigan businesses. Like we have a lot of revenue here. We're one of the highest revenue states in the country. We have an obligation. We can't just take all of our money and run home. Not that we're all making so much money, but like we have to support the national organizations that are doing this work. Michigan is woefully under supporting these organizations right now. Like there's some very large companies here with tons of revenue that can afford to support these organizations and should be. So it's not, we can't sit on the sideline anymore. We have to get active. So you guys, a lot of you guys are going to be hearing that from me over the coming period.
Not a pitch.
Thanks, Derek. I appreciate you letting me get.
Just a couple more thoughts. So in the state of Michigan, there's approximately 1,300 retail stores.
I think it's like 800.
I
think it's about 800.
I thought it was over 1,000. Am I wrong?
1,300 active licenses.
1,300 active licenses.
I think 800. Yeah.
Okay, so there's 3 times more active licenses in retail than there are Starbucks in the state of Michigan. You 3 are all on a massive upward trajectory with growth, ambitious plans, different models. What do you say to the person in the room today that's got 1 store, 1 license, and they're like, shit, I don't know how much longer I could do this on my own? When do you guys begin to have the consolidation talk, and what does that look like?
I think we're all probably having it differently, To me, like I mentioned, accretion at the beginning of this conversation. Ankur's mentioning G&A. You're a 1-store operator. I don't care what you're doing. The minute you come into an infrastructure, your store will make more money. So I think that's how we're looking at the world, and that's how we're selling our management agreements out there. That's how we're focusing on growing our business, because we're just seeing it as scalability is a weapon, and how can we do that with our people? And I think that if we can show the accretion side by side to a 1-store, 2-store, 3-store operator, there's a significant benefit to us. And then I'm sure for these guys, it's probably on a little bit larger scale. Ankur can see that from a company like mine. He can see that from a different lens. So it's about understanding the value that you can bring once you're together and driving that as much at the top, but even equally from the bottom.
Mike,
how do you define success as a single store operator? I think is part of it. I mean, if the halcyon dreams of everyone getting generational wealth, I think, have set sail, correct? But there's a lot of really great men and women that are operating neighborhood stores of any different type, be it supermarkets or party stores or gas stations, and they're making a living, okay? They're working there with their family. They're working hard. They're managing their inventory. How you define success in this industry has a lot to do with whether you're successful, okay? So yes, the dream of becoming billionaires may be not there for everybody. It's certainly set sail for me a long time ago, right? But success is what you make it. Because I tell you what, like a very low revenue cannabis store is a very high revenue party store, okay? I mean, the average store, the 850 in the state of Michigan, by my math, did about $330,000 a month last month.
$4 million a year average revenue per door.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not saying everybody's average, but again, if you define success the right way, and if you're not trying to go out there and make $3 million a year doing this, but you want to raise your family, and you want to go to work every day and have an honest living and do your thing, it's available in this industry, whether you're a single store operator or you show up for work every day like I do, to a larger corporation. It's how you define success in your own mind. That's how it matters whether you achieve it.
Words to live by, man. But I would say, if you're a single store operator, like Mike said, either you have to figure out how to run it well, make it profitable, like make it a successful business, with whatever that means for that business. Have a reasonable set of expectations around it. Don't think you're going to do $10 million if the average store in Michigan does 4, or if there's too many stores in a market. Understand what that might imply for the performance. And then for some people, it's like, look, if you have a business that's not successful or isn't trending in the right direction, and you take a look in the mirror and you say it's not going to get better, maybe it's the market conditions, maybe it's whatever aspect of it, then for some people it may not be perfect. And like, I do see some people that like just can't let go of the dream sometimes, and I totally understand it as an entrepreneur, but like sometimes you feel for those people because like not everything is going to work in this industry. And there are going to be stores that shutter, there are going to be producers that shutter, but I don't think just because you're a one-off owner of a single asset doesn't mean that you can't be successful. You can actually be quite successful. But to Mike's point, is it the gold rush where we're all going to get rich and have generational wealth? Like, yeah, that it's a lot tougher than than what we thought it was going to be. So, but I wouldn't, if you feel like there's a path, if you're making money, then don't be discouraged. You're in a great market. Michigan is the best place to be in some ways. So,
Any final thoughts, Aric?
Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, our final panel of the evening: Aric Klar, Mike DiLaura, Ankur Rungta. Fantastic job.